Today's lesson is going to be really quick. We're going to finish up GCF and LCM, and we're going to just use that ladder trick that we learned yesterday. So you're going to line up 160 and 200. I noticed these end in zeros, so I'm going to use 10. And that's going to give me 16 and 20. And I also noticed that 4 goes into both of these, so that gives me 4 and 5. There's nothing that goes into 4 and 5. So circle the numbers I pulled out of the problem, multiply, and I get 40. We're going to do the same concept, but we're going to do it with 3 numbers this time. So I happen to know that 4 goes into all of these, and I'm left with 3, 9, and 2. There is nothing that goes into 3, 9, and 2, so 4 is my GCF. Same thing, this time we'll do 4 numbers. So something that goes into all of these would be 4. That leaves me with 6, 12, 15, and 9. And I know 3 goes into all of these, so I'll pull out 3, and I'm left with 2, 4, 5, and 3. Since there's nothing that goes into 2, 4, 5, and 3, I'm going to circle and multiply. GCF is 12. And that's about it for GCF. Now we're going to change it up. We're going to look at LCM, which stands for least common multiple. And it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the smallest multiple that both numbers have in common. So unfortunately, there's not a really easy trick for LCM like there was for GCF. It's usually not too bad. So what I like to do first off is see if one of the numbers is a multiple of the other, because then that's the LCM. So for this one, 30 is a multiple of 15. So I'm just going to say the LCM is 30. However, 8 and 5 doesn't work so well. 8's not a multiple of 5. So the way you want to do this is just start listing multiples of 5. Like 5, 10, 15, 20. Then I'm going to list multiples of 8. So you have 8, 16, 24, 32. Now, unfortunately, you just have to keep listing until you get something they have in common. So I'll go a little bit further with 5, 25, 30, 35, 40. We'll go a little further with 8, so we have 32 and then 40. And if you notice, okay, 40 is the first number they have in common, so it is the LCM. Don't just multiply 8 and 5 together. That doesn't work for everything. That wouldn't work for up here, so you don't want to just multiply these numbers together and write that answer down. So if I look at 10, 30, and 3, I realize 30 is a multiple of 10 and 3, so 30 is going to be my LCM, so no work needed for that. However, that does not work with 16, 6, and 24. 16 does not go into 24, so I can't just use that trick again. So if I start listing multiples of 16, then I'm going to list multiples of 24. And really, the first number they have in common is 48. So 48 is a multiple of 6. I'm done. And it is. So the least common multiple is going to be 48. When it comes to GCF regarding letters, all you're going to do is count how many letters each item has in common. So if each group has one X, then you just write one X in your answer. If they all have two X's in common, you write 2X and so on. So we're going to first deal with 18, 42, and 24. And something that goes into all of those could be, looks like 6. That leaves me with 3, 7, and 4. And there's nothing else that goes into 3, 7, and 4. So 6 would be the number portion of the the GCF. And if you look, we have x to the third, x, and no x's. So since they don't all have an x, I can't write x. Same thing with the y's. They don't all have a y, so I can't write y. That's my GCF. If you look at 2, 6, and 10, obviously the GCF is going to be 2. So you're going to write 2, and then we're going to see how many r's do they have in common. So we have 4, 1, and none, so we can't write r. 1p, 1p, and 3p's. So they all have at least 1p. That's what they got in common. That's what I put in my answer. Done. And then for LCM, it's the opposite. So you just take the highest amount of letters you see of all the groups. And it doesn't matter if they have it in common or not. So right away, I know 3, 6, and 2 all share 6 as a multiple. So the LCM is 6. We have x to the 5th versus x. So you're going to keep the higher exponent. You have y versus y to the 8th. So you keep y to the 8th. So LCM is not quite as strict. You can keep, if I have 17 different letters in the problem, you should have 17 letters in the answer.